Attendees are in listen-only mode.
I'm Jamie Reed with the Oracle Applications and Technology Users Group. I'm excited to have you join us for today's webinar, From EBS to Cloud Fusion, a guide to clean data, smooth journey, hosted by More4apps. For those who might be new to our community, I want to share a bit about OA2G. We are a network of Oracle users and consultants dedicated to providing exceptional education and offering support to our members. We're always on the lookout for great volunteers who are eager to make a difference. So if you are interested in getting involved, please reach out to us. As we dive into the webinar, please note that all participants will remain muted to ensure a smooth and uninterrupted experience. However, we encourage you to actively participate by submitting your questions through the questions box at any time. We are recording this session, and OA2G members will have access to the recording and the slide deck in our knowledge base within 48 hours. Keep an eye on the chat area for links to our upcoming events, access to the knowledge base, and details on joining OA2G. Now I want to welcome our speakers, Brian Grossweiler, CEO with More4apps, Rachana Haste, Solution Specialist with More4apps, and Stephanie DiPaolo, VP of Marketing and Communications with More4apps. Thank you so much for being here today. You can take it away.
All right, great. Thank you so much. Appreciate the introduction. Brian, we can go ahead and cruise through the next two slides. I believe these were covered just about membership. Hopefully, if you're on this webinar, you are a member. If not, we encourage you to get involved. Okay, great. We can go one more. And just a shout out to OA2G for giving us this opportunity to talk about a trending yet equally as important topic around migrating data to Oracle Fusion Cloud ERP. A lot of what we cover today is taken directly from our customers' experiences, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And either way, they have been real life lessons learned. And our CEO, Brian Grossweiler, is going to share them with you all. Now onto the agenda. We're going to start by launching a quick poll question. Then we'll go and talk about current data trends and the state of ERPs, whether you're staying on your current ERP or have plans to move. Next, Brian will talk through perhaps the most important considerations when managing your ERP data, and that is validation and accuracy. And we'll also have some customer stories to share before digging into data loading solutions to consider. So we have a lot of great information to cover. So let's get started with the poll question. Brian, go to next slide, and then I will launch that, and we'll give everyone a couple seconds to go ahead and participate. So you should see that on your screen. Go ahead and select one. Leave it open for another 10 seconds. All right, last call. Get your votes in. All right, ready to go ahead and close. And we will share the results. You should see them up here. So it looks like a little bit of a mixed bag. So where are you on your ERP Fusion Cloud journey? Staying on current ERP, about 12%. Planning on moving to Fusion, 47%. Currently migrating, 18%. Already on Fusion Cloud, 12%, and not sure, 12%. So a little bit all over the place. But that's good information. So you're at the right place. Good news. So I'm going to go ahead and close that out. And now I'm going to hand it over to Brian Grossweiler to get started with the content. Brian.
Thanks, Stephanie. And thank you, everybody, and welcome. I'm Brian Grossweiler, CEO here of More4apps, and pleased to be joined by and hosted with OA2G today. At More4apps here more recently, just based on that poll, we've been doing executive briefings with customers and people within the market. And one of the first things that we lead off with is this Gartner research slide that talks about poor data quality across organizations and the dollars that are typically lost when it comes to data quality. And what's important, and maybe more specifically, what are some of those lessons and commonalities that we find in these conversations, are that data quality, data accuracy, it's very important and it's top of the list, but it's also forgotten, and it's normal experiences to be overwhelmed and stressed and looking for changes to make sure or to ensure that the data is in the best possible position. So let's have some fun and let's get started here. So state of ERP, no surprise here, right? That EBS customers looking to either stay on EBS or move to Cloud Fusion, hopefully, but maybe also exploring other possibilities. And insight number one, when we look at the speaking with our customers, one of the first things that they tell us is start data cleansing now. Why is that important? Well, you will hopefully mitigate many challenges to come in the implementation phase and then obviously in the post-go live phase. But as part of insight number one there with the EBS bucket, this solely sits on the customer site. This is not driven by the partner. So the sooner you act in data cleansing, the better prepared you're going to be to move to that next ERP, hopefully again, Cloud Fusion. In the implementation phase, this is where chaos may start to consume the business. And what we find is that companies that have their consultants that maybe make that initial load into the Cloud Fusion ERP now start getting involved with validating the data and updating the data, finding and fixing the data errors. And that's the first introduction and the first challenge that companies will experience as they go and march towards that go live. Well, that requires a lot of team dependencies because there's different skill sets, knowledge of the data, new to process, new to the new ERP, that things just need to get figured out that create a lot of time and a lot of contribution, as Gartner states there in that previous slide when you think about loss of money. Thirdly, when you look at Cloud Fusion ERP and you think about some of the reasons why, and we're going to talk about some of the reasons why organizations move to Cloud Fusion, it's astonishing really that data loading options are often forgotten, or more recently it seems like left to the last minute with these customers or with our customers. And the wider business begins to get introduction to new process, new ERP, of course, new tool sets. And that's where the slowdown really impacts that change management, that ownership, that drive and adoption of new ERP. And so our job today is to help educate, inform, pass on any little bit of customer experience that we've come across. And hopefully that just gives additional knowledge to make the best informed decisions and be prepared for what your future may bring as you're moving into that new Cloud Fusion ERP. So why do companies go, or why would you choose? A lot of times we hear cost, maybe on an older version of EBS, so you're looking to upgrade. Well, why upgrade? You can just go to the latest and greatest, of course, with cloud. Maybe you have some customizations. Maybe you want to consolidate through acquiring companies and you have some disparate systems out there that you want to bring into one, have that single source of truth. Whatever the reason may be, what we often find that companies miss is the key ingredient is the data. What about the data? What happens when we make that decision? Hey, we want to save costs by going to Fusion, but there's a whole different hidden cost in that data. The overwhelming bits that we describe with the users, the emotional toll that it just takes to get things right. It's tedious. It requires long hours, requires that focus, that skill set. And it's often because of the tool sets that are given to the users and trying to adopt tools with process, new ERP, but we want to really highlight the focus on think about the data. Yes, there's great benefits of going to Cloud Fusion, and a lot of our customers that we find do get there over time. But the critical focus on getting the data right is really, really important. That's going to lead to your ultimate success faster. And what we tend to find is, again, is that it's normal with these stresses. It's normal to be overwhelmed. And we want to get to a state with the Oracle community is to try to eliminate that, right? Be prepared at the beginning, get the right tools in place to make the jobs easier for the team members, thinking about the data. And so we're going to focus on the first bucket there under free, and more so highlight that FBDI solution. That's where we find most organizations are starting at. And it's very common for the system integrator to use FBDI, do an initial load from your current ERP to the new ERP. And that's fine. That's a great use case. That's probably what the solution was initially intended for, but not built out for your operational, everyday, day-to-day use cases across the business. And where we see, again, thinking about those three stages of EBS to implementation, implementation to Cloud Fusion, is that first experience during the implementation phase of companies getting their hands on with FBDI. They don't have the skill set, they don't have the technical expertise, but more importantly, we're going to start to highlight the pains and the challenges around validating the data, making sure that that data is accurate, and more importantly, organizations have the right tool sets to provide real-time error feedback to ensure data accuracy. So most of our conversation is going to be wrapped around that particular tool set. That seems to be the triggering point for most organizations, but there certainly are other options that you can certainly explore. Build, although it does exist, I think it is kind of counterintuitive when you look at some of those reasons why you move to Cloud Fusion. You get some more stuff out of the box. Obviously, being on a cloud ERP, you have to deal with quarterly updates. That's a whole nother level of complexities and potential things to be aware of or risks into the future. So building, I think a lot of organizations hopefully are trying to move away from that model and looking at alternatives that provide the right tool sets to get the job done for the business at the end of the day. And so, again, some of those triggering points that we talked about, when FBDI typically gets introduced into the implementation phase of an organization, if I just had a big old highlighter and went right to the middle of this slide, error messaging. Error messaging and limited data validation, understanding what's wrong. Now remember, typically, high-level journey, system integrator is going to use FBDI, push some data, load some data into the new ERP. And the key element, though, is they don't know the data. So that's where the business now comes into play. The business being responsible for the data, validating that data, searching for the errors. Well, it's not going to be done with FBDI. So now, very, very complex, very, very just tedious, going through line by line, very team dependent, probably multiple teams on board. I think what we hear from our customers typically, nights, weekends, IT may be driving the process, but they need the particular functional leads to help validate. So, again, coming into that data ownership and probably the ball of yarn that makes things complex, well, it starts with the errors and fixing the errors and being told where to go. How can we do our jobs if the errors or the data that we've just uploaded don't tell us that it's wrong? And so that's really, really important. But then you get into some of the other elements of flexibility and being able to save templates and maybe not being able to download and quickly changing data. Again, FBDI, probably really solid for the consultants to do some of those initial loads back into the ERP or into the initial ERP. But from an operational level day to day, it misses some of those key ingredients that are going to ensure that data accuracy for long-term success. So talking a little bit about customer experience, and again, trying to put the lens on what customers face. And one of the bits that we try to drive within More4apps, we know most organizations are new to Cloud Fusion. And when it comes to Cloud Fusion, you need that expertise beyond the consultants. What are other companies doing? What have other companies experienced in whatever the problem or challenge? Remove data and data accuracy and uploading data from a moment. There's a myriad of other things that, of course, do not involve where More4apps helps and supports. And so our ability to connect to like companies that are going through the same journey is something that we take great pride in. When you look at Denise, she helped lead a customer panel that we did back in February with 2 or 3 other companies that talked about this journey more in depth. So if you want to have a quick listen to a really good webinar that we did back in February, you can certainly go to our website under resources, and they answer a myriad of different questions about their experience going from, in this case, EBS to Cloud Fusion. Well, as described, again, implementation partner used FBDI. How now can the users very quickly go from point A to point B or make their adjustments that needed? And that's where the templates and the lack of flexibility or the multiple processes within the upload process with FBDI really came to a screeching halt, to where some of the added advantages that were missing were better suited for at least Jack in the Box's need at this point. When we look at Pierre's business, and Education First came as a customer at the end of their journey. So Denise and Jack in the Box, they were at the beginning. Education First, I'm actually not sure if they were on EBS previously before they got to Cloud Fusion, but we met Pierre at the end of their go live and into the early days of leveraging Cloud Fusion. And you could plug just about any customer's name or logo to this slide, and conversation point, it's very similar again. What's the normal conversation that we're hearing? The struggles and the stress with the business not being able to operate on a day-to-day basis based on the complexities of data loading solutions that they have. If they need to make updates, if they need to validate certain data elements, that's a critical piece that's missing. Coming back to the why, and you look at a lot of the organization's business cases that they've put together for why they go to Cloud Fusion, the cost, the added complexities that they may have had or adopted in the years past with their current ERP. Well, what we're finding is that the solutions available when it comes to data loading are adding complexities in the process. And you piggy that back on top of a new ERP. Change is difficult. We all know that change is difficult. And if it's broke, sometimes why fix it? But it's a mountain to climb. And we want to make sure that we do our part by educating everybody in the market and giving them the best ability to deliver on the business case why they've chosen Cloud Fusion ERP. And so Pierre's also done a couple of talks for us with the UK OUG, and I believe that probably some of his more in-depth sessions are posted as well, and or a recording from his more recent webinar. So just really kind of in sum, that people all too often forget is in leaving this to the last minute. That we've seen way too many times when we catch customers towards the end of their implementation journey or at the very beginning, like education first, that things just come to a screeching halt. Business users are frustrated. Companies are not looking and delivering on the ROI for why they decided to go to Fusion, and they need the right tools in place to ensure data accuracy, but more so, again, deliver on the results in the business case on why you chose Cloud Fusion. It's sometimes taking a step back and listening to the emotion with the customers talk on and seeing that in their face and in their eyes that they've gone through different scars and wounds from not being able to deliver what they expected to deliver because of something that, again, often gets missed or left to the last minute. And so the sooner you can start with the cleansing bit in EBS and help transition that into having the right data validation and error messaging tools in place during the implementation, to then ensuring that you have the right flexible tool, data validation, error messaging solution in place for making those day-to-day changes, are really critical to the success of your ERP rollout. And so as we look into some of the why and how can we help? And at the very least, whether or not More4apps is part of your journey or not, our responsibility is to provide the best possible information, education that we can to make sure that companies and customers in similar positions can navigate and hopefully eliminate certain challenges to ensure that success. And so when Rachana steps through some of the compare and contrast of her presentation or the second part of this presentation today, really want to highlight again that error messaging and validation is critical when users start getting their hands on the new ERP data within Fusion and can very quickly change and update those errors if required. And being able to download the existing data set in a single spreadsheet, upload back into Cloud Fusion, and very quickly identifying if something is wrong and having the end user, not IT, being able to fix that. So kind of compare and contrast is part of our responsibility and education duty here today. And those are really the three things that we want to highlight as that differentiation that users will experience come time to get hands-on with the data during that implementation phase. And so just kind of bringing it 360, conceptually, logging in with your Oracle credentials, being able to download in an Excel spreadsheet, adjusting the data and sending it back in real time with real-time feedback and validation. And so that's the basic concept that Rach is going to highlight and continue to talk about some of those end user experiences when they're navigating this journey to make sure that they're set up for success. So I'm going to stop sharing, Rachana, and see if I can make you the presenter.
Sure. Let me start sharing here. I still don't have that. Okay. All right. I hope I'm sharing. Let me make this full screen. Not yet.
There we go. Perfect. All you, Rachana.
All right. So let me put this off to save bandwidth. All right. And we are on to the video if I'm at the right spot. So what we are going to do here, this is our little Excel savvy mascot, and she's going to do some hands-on walkthroughs of this entire journey that we talked about before. So let's dive in. So as we talked about our conversations with many of our business users in the past, we have seen that the data quality was often underplayed as an element in the whole upgrade journey. And what they are left with is a whole mountain of bad data while they strive to get clean insights from this data. This becomes a huge hurdle after the fact, after the go live. And increasingly today, it is a very data sensitive, data intensive world where people are overlaying analytics solutions, AI solutions on top of their applications, the Oracle applications or any of their business applications. And it is paramount to get your data clean to really get some actionable, decisive insights into the data. And to achieve this, we interviewed our users, and in hindsight, they thought, what was the right time to think about this and bring this into play? And they attested to it that it really was right at the legacy stage. When you're still in your Oracle application legacy system, you cannot think about speeding up your data conversion and postponing or procrastinating your data problems. You cannot sit with duplicate records, inconsistent or incomplete data when you're going into your Fusion Cloud application. Fix it right at the outset. So that was the learning, and let's see how Excella, our little Excel savvy Excel whiz, can help you with this. So we will she's pointing to the EBS set of solutions, which can help across modules to really get the data cleaned and ready and prepped for the upgrade. So shed your baggage, make it all clean before you migrate. So that's where the EBS toolbox can help you. We'll just start with a sample area, which is the suppliers, master data, but it's pretty similar for any transactional data. You want to go and close your PO lines, which have been sitting there lingering there from a long time. All that baggage can be shed and removed before you go to cloud. So let's see how we can clean up the supplier master database, and even before you start taking extracts for the cloud. So in here, this is a simple Excel spreadsheet where we can extract our active supplier base, this is connected to the EBS system. It's called the supplier wizard, which is similar to many of our other solutions on the EBS side. So here you'll notice that we are filtering very conveniently by either supplier name, country, or by vendor type. We get all the supplier listing. We can get them in an easy single view on a spreadsheet. It's easy to spot holes now in the data. We see that there are DUNS number which are missing. There's taxpayer IDs which might be needed in the new system, DUNS numbers in the new systems, and even duplicates. I spot some duplicates. Let's deactivate them before we go there. So put an end date, as easy as deactivating, just put an end date on that even before you start extracting data for the cloud. So here I'm also going to show there might be some data transformations happening. So you could do some translations in the process. That can also be done very easily. So I had to fill my organization type. It's mandated, let's say in my new system. So that is the reason we migrated before migration, we put the organization type here. Okay, and now let's see, once we have that data uploaded and the holes plugged, what are our migration options? So Brian talked about the freeware options out there, and FBDI is the most popular. We will cruise through that first and see how it compares with some better alternatives out there. These are the lesser known other options, but they have not grown as popular as FBDI. So today, if you are in your migration journey and you are either in, getting ready for SIT, doing the pilot, CRP, or UAT, most likely your consultant layer is using FBDI. And let's see what the solution is, and if it's handed to you, what it would look like. So now that we had our supplier cleaned out, scrubbed, all the supplier data scrubbed onto Excel spreadsheet, what you would have to do if it was FBDI is to put the header on this sheet. And this is just one sheet. You would have multiple for addresses, for contacts, and so on. There are many such sheets which you have to tie together with an ID to link them, to perform those linkages. And you would have to stitch them together. So this is the FBDI interface. And your day-to-day consultant would be going through this task of filling this out. Notice this is a fixed, rigid layout. Every one of these fields has to be in that spot. It has to be filled. Next, you go in, you generate a zip file out of this. So these are all technical steps. You're not even in sight of your data right now. You're making a zip file. You'll go through an import. Now this is the address interface. So it's a completely different sheet from the first one where you have to put in these supplier addresses. So you're really toggling between many sheets and trying to link them together. And now you have to go into the system or to the Oracle Fusion interface and actually start doing a schedule processing. So again, transitions between multiple screens, and these kind of operations, they are very second nature to technical layers. You're doing an import program, you are looking at the log file, submitting it, and these are second nature to consultants, but end users, business users who are handling the process day to day, this is all taking their focus and attention away from ensuring that data is complete, the integrity of the data is there, and the accuracy is there. It's really distractions, it's disruptions when you get off the site of your data. These are the log files. It should not be really the day-to-day end user's job to go through, comb through these error logs and look at these kind of error files. It's not easy to work through all of that. So let's look at some of the other alternatives. Once we have the scrub data on a spreadsheet, as we saw, extracted from EBS, or you might have your own extracts generated by any other applications from the legacy system that you have. What are some of the alternative options for you to load that into the Oracle Cloud Fusion system? So we will look at the ERP toolbox suite of solutions here, as Excella takes us through the same supplier load in a much cleaner, simple manner. So this is one single sheet, and it is flexible and tailored to suit your extracts from the legacy system. So you have your own set of columns in the right sequence. You're not bound to what comes out of the box. You can reorder the columns, place them where you want. And what that lends you is the ability to simply copy and paste from those extracts into here without much data maneuvering and juggling. Okay, so these can be pre-built, saved, and it saves you the task of doing a lot of mapping. We talked about data transformation rules. Let's say the foreign partnerships, an individual is going to be a different name for the supplier type going into cloud. Many such transformations happen. Your code combination, flex fields go from 4 segment to 6 segment. Many such transformations happen as you go from your legacy into cloud. And these kind of transformation rules can be embedded using Excel, simple X lookup, V lookup. So what I've done here is I'm translating these. When I go into cloud, these will get translated into a slightly different supplier type from what we had in EBS. And how we attain that is put simple transformation rules. And this is all Excel functionality. You can leverage the full capabilities of Excel in this solution, in this toolkit. So you can do an X lookup, and you can embed rules and have that transformation done. And as I outlined, this is all in a single spreadsheet from the top supplier down to the address, sites, contacts, anything you want can all be on one sheet. You're not busy stitching together multiple sheets or linking data IDs and all of that stuff. You're just focused on your end user data and having it insight in control all the time. All right, so I just plugged in some error there, and we are going to pre-validate this. So we talked about advanced validation. It's very important to have clean data and not have to comb through error logs to discover errors at a later point. It just takes a whole new cycle of import, as you saw in FBDI, to go back and do it. So there is this validate option we are doing here. It catches errors right there on the sheet, highlights the error, gives you a very user-friendly error message, what is wrong, lets you fix it right there even before uploading. It gives you the aid of user-friendly data fonts. If you are looking for the right values, you don't have to go into Oracle. It's all within this one sheet, one screen. So there's no swap of the front-end interfaces that you're doing here. So you quickly pick the right value. There are a list of values and prompts for every field on this sheet. So at any moment in a jiffy, you can summon up the list of values for any of these rows. You don't have to conjure up the values from your mind or memory. Once done, you can just upload from here. Single click upload gives you back feedback right there, and also gives errors if any. So here's where we'll do a side-by-side comparison. Excel loves doing this side-by-side matchups. And we have another entity, account receivables on the left, using the More4apps integrator, and this is the traditional FBDI. And we're going to just do it side by side. It's a little small because it is fitted within one, but we have the data already on the sheet and we are just validating and uploading. FBDI also starts at the same point here. We have the data on the sheet, but we have to start generating the CSV files, doing the zip file and all of those steps. While here, it's just a single click. And all we need to do is review the results. We already have errors here. Whereas on the right, we are still navigating to import the interface, import the files onto another screen. We don't even look at our data here right now. And then we are running the file import. All these are multiple hops that you're doing while you're losing sight and losing focus and attention from the data. Back here, we've already corrected the invoice from the error messaging we saw. And then we are reloading it using the upload single click, all inside of the data, never losing sight of it. And the process is complete here. I can fast forward this a little bit to get through, but we are still loading the interface and doing the auto invoice import for the invoices here, waiting for the background process, fast forward a bit. And we have the log files to fix the errors. And this is the ADFDI in this case, and then we are fixing the errors and uploading again. So I'll just fast forward a little bit here and then see a summary comparison that we found at the end. So that's the summary. We have so many splits between different screens and different interfaces, going from one, Excel to the Oracle Fusion app, and then to PDF to look at the Oracle or the error logs. All of those swaps take up your time and attention, take up your, distract you from focusing on data. And all in all, it was a clear, hands down, way ahead in terms of time savings. And as well as it assures accuracy because now you have that much less of a distraction. Okay, so this is how it has helped many of our users we've found. And even beyond that, as we were talking about transitioning to the business as usual phase. Now you're live, your transition and conversion is done. You're in the regular business as usual mode. And let's see what users feel at this stage. So again, rolling out to the larger teams and groups and the entire organization as a new business process, a lot of users complain about how much of a transition it is to learn the new Oracle flows and the screens from EBS. It was Java forms and going into these browser-based forms, the search capabilities, the extracts, the reports, everything has changed. And it's a huge learning curve when you want to make a change on, let's say you just want to go back and add attachments to those suppliers that we had imported or migrated from the legacy system. It's 3 or 4 layers that you have to really search, bring up the supplier, go into attachments. So 3 nested layer of forms. It's a lot of navigation, a lot of learning curve involved in learning those new browser-based forms. And Oracle is coming up with Redwood UI soon, and that's also going to add to your training efforts where you familiarize your users with the Redwood user interface. That's going to be another learning exercise. So all of that is kind of buffered and screened away from end users when you give them the comfort and convenience of an Excel user interface. They've always been on Excel, even back in the day when you had EBS forms or any other legacy system, people would massage and curate their data and clean it up on Excel before even going to any application forms. So you can continue using Excel and it becomes a live connected user interface through all the security. And it is a flexible single layout that you have tailored to suit your needs and your use case. For example, adding attachments. You don't have to deal with the entire clutter of the supplier, the noise of all the other fields and the addresses and so on. You can just go into the supplier header attachments. What I'm doing here is just downloading a bunch of suppliers. It's a powerful download functionality. Just query by the number, the name, and a few other parameters. You get all the information you need. In this case, just the supplier name. You got the name. It's an uncluttered view, as I said. And you can add a file attachment or a text attachment, whichever you want to put on it. NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, or several such things to go on the suppliers. And you can put a file with a file path. In this case, I'm just doing a text. And this is going to default. If it's one consistent, I'm putting it once, and it defaults and loads it. And you get the accepted status here. And this can be done for anything. Let's say you want to change your invoicing terms or anything else, that can also be done. So that is all I had. I'm going to pass it back to Brian or leave it here.
Yeah, it's okay to leave here, Rachana. Thank you, Rachana. I think Stephanie will go to the questions. So if you have any questions, go ahead and send them in, and we will be happy to answer.
Yeah, go ahead, put them in the questions panel or the chat panel. We'll go around one by one. So I'll get started with Brian. A question for you. When you spoke earlier about FBDI and customer pains, did they only go with FBDI because it's free? And how quickly did they learn it wasn't going to work?
Everyone has probably a different time frame when they learn those different challenges and look to make changes. But I think my understanding and just the data points coming back to conversations with customers is that it's often just forgotten. It's, hey, we have all these other big initiatives as part of the implementation. Yes, this solution's in place, check the box. But when it gets time to implement or get hands-on, that's when people start backpedaling. So hopefully that answers the question.
Okay, great. Rachana, because the product is a spreadsheet solution, does it have all of the features and functionality of Excel or only some?
It has all the full capabilities of Excel. I already had the transformation demonstrated through an XLOOKUP, but you can do pivot tables on the downloaded data. Any functionality of Excel is available at your fingertips on this solution.
Okay, great. Brian, we'll get back to you. Can we start using More4apps products during the implementation phase, or do we have to wait for go live?
The sooner the better. What we found companies similar to Jack in the Box and others, to where the sooner they get their plan in place, the tool to help support error messaging during that implementation, the better. So there's no restrictions on timing on when you can start leveraging.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Back over to you, Rachana. How do permissions work within the products? Does every end user have to access all permissions or data loads, or can they be limited?
That's a good question. Yeah. So this is completely through the Oracle security. We just piggyback on Oracle's roles and privileges and segregation of duties and everything. So whatever roles you have on Oracle, you log in with your credentials for Oracle, and you get only the access that you would have on the Oracle instance. And you can even further clamp it down with some profile options or further limitations we can put on the privileges and roles. So you can really control it at a finer, granular level.
Okay, great. Yeah, question for either of you or both. How does the application handle large volumes of data validation, and what strategies for effective data cleansing?
Rachana, maybe if you want to take that one first, and then I can add any flavor to it.
Yeah, I can take the technical side of it first. So yeah, so the EBS side, we showed that there is an EBS solution which can connect to the legacy, and it can do a download. Even on the cloud, if you are after the fact, you're already live and you want to do the cleansing exercise now, it's never too late. You can always leverage our tools, the EBS, or sorry, the Cloud Fusion tools to go in and connect. And let's say download a large number of old PO lines and do the closing on it. So there's very powerful download capabilities. You can search by, let's say, supplier. You can dice your data in a way that you can bring only certain POs past, which are old and already received and things like that, and then go in and do a close action on it. So it can be done for large volumes. Excel really doesn't have any limitation, and if we are going through web services, so it's really going through the approved gateways that Oracle has given. So that definitely can be achieved even if you're live in cloud and you still have a lot of clutter of data and you want to cleanse it. Anything to add, Brian?
No, I don't think so. I think from an end user perspective, right, just again, highlighting that real-time error messaging, regardless of the volume of data, is really, really critical to get to the end result accurate back in your existing ERP as quickly as possible.
Okay, great. Next question. Are there size limitations?
I'm assuming in terms of data size, there's really, it's Excel, it can go into 1 million plus rows now, and then it's going through web services. The only thing sometimes our users see is that there are session timeouts, which is more like an Oracle limitation. If you have a database session or a connection session that goes over 30 minutes or something, it can time out. So all you have to do is have your system administrators or the go in and increase that timeout limits so that it stays active, your session stays active, even if something's loading for more than 30, 40 minutes. So it's only those constraints, your system, your memory and all of that, your Excel memory or your Windows memory, that can come into play, but theoretically our solution doesn't give a cap to any of the volumes.
Okay, one more question, Brian. Can More4apps replace FBDI altogether, or does it work side by side with it?
I think it probably depends on what the future state may look like. But generally speaking, if organizations are struggling with FBDI, More4apps would be a full replacement. Again, maybe just highlighting the one particular element there. If you're doing a load, like say you buy another company after you're live on Cloud Fusion, FBDI may be a good solution to do that mass load one time, potentially, right? Depending on what you ultimately want to push into your ERP. But formally speaking, we generally see customers just replacing the whole time.
Okay, one more came in. Rachana, I'll give this one to you. Is the Cloud Toolbox easy to implement? How difficult is it to train users?
As you saw, it's a simple Excel spreadsheet, so training is the easiest. They already intuitively know Excel. In terms of implementation or deploying it, it's literally about an hour's job. You have to import a few BI reports, set it up, and set up the system privileges to the security console, and that's it. You just have to install the add-in at the desktop level. So really just 2 or 3 components and up and running in an hour's time frame.
What authentication and authorization method is used to connect web services, Rachana?
That might be a little beyond what I usually deal with. I know that it is REST web services. You log in through the add-in using your Oracle username, password, everything. Now beyond that, I don't know the protocols and stuff like that, but yeah, we can always circle around if you need more details. We have a document that outlines the entire path of how it connects. But yeah, on the surface, it's a REST or a SOAP service call, and it's logging in through your Oracle credentials.
Okay, I don't think I see any other questions. Last call for questions. I think that's it. So you have our information here on the slide. Feel free to go to our website, check out the resources. Like Brian had mentioned earlier, we have a lot of webinars and customer stories on this topic. You can send us an email if you have more questions. And also, I believe, Jamie, I'll kick it over to you, but the recording and slides will be available on the OATUG site, I believe.
Yes, those will be available within 48 hours. And I said I was going to post those in the chat, and I did not do that, so let me do that really quick. Those are available only to OA2G members. But here is our calendar of events, our knowledge base, and how to join OA2G and also to volunteer. So thank you so much to More4apps for presenting today. I know you had a lot of great information, a lot of questions, and we just really appreciate the partnership we have with you. So to our attendees, thank you for being here on a Thursday afternoon, and I hope everyone enjoys their weekend.
Thank you so much.
And thank you all attendees.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.